Welcome back, episode 135 of the Grouch and the Brainstorm. I am Mike, joined today with my handsome
Handsome.
sidekick, Matt, and we have a special guest. I couldn't think of another word, Matt. I'm sorry.
You
But
said manly men the other day too. I haven't forgot that. I
yeah,
wrote
that was
that
a
in my
joke.
book to
That was a
myself.
joke.
I didn't take it as a joke. I took that
Oh,
as
yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, no. Between me and you, it was serious. The rest of the world thought it was a joke. And today we're joined with, or which we're joined as a special guest, Rich T, and Rich is located in the wonderful city of Tyler, Texas,
Yes,
or
sir.
close to it anyway. How about that? So,
Yes, sir.
Matt, why don't you introduce Rich? And Rich is going to tell us his sobriety story, what it was like, what happened, and what's going on now.
So yeah, our good friend Lisa, who's been on here several times, and she's relentless. You know, she's relentless. That's a great word for Lisa. And she knew Rich and wanted to. She said, "I think y'all would like to hear what he has to say." And we always like hearing what people have to say in recovery and sobriety. And so, without further ado, I'm going to let him take it away, and we might interrupt him a little bit and ask some questions. But the floor is yours, sir.
All
Yeah,
right.
go
Thank you
ahead,
very
Rich.
much. Rich Tillman, alcoholic. I have a sobriety date of October 9th, 2009. Man, I love hearing that because that's the longest that I've ever done anything positive for myself in my life. That's what the program did for me. That's some cool stuff, you know. Um, it's something that I get to hold on to and I get to share with people and I think that's one of the hugest things for me is being able to share that with other people because um, that's how we pass this message down. You know, we give this away. At least that's what was told to me. So a little bit of backstory. You know, I I grew up in this really small town. You know, I'm half Mexican, and my mom's Mexican, and my dad is German Irish. And so
Oh,
I grew up in Catholicism. You know, my mom taught
yeah.
catechism and all that stuff, and so that's what I grew up. You know, when I was in this little town, and we were one of three Mexican families in this town, and it was just wholesome. And you know, it was a good upbringing. You know, I hear a lot of people say, you know, I drank because I had this really crappy, you know, childhood, and I had to change the way I felt. And for me, that wasn't the case. You know, I had a really good childhood. I just love the effects of alcohol in all its forms. You know, I just for whatever reason, you know, I thought I grew up with a father that came home after work every day, and he drank screwdrivers, you know. And on the
Mhm.
weekends, if we would went to the lake, he would drink beer. And I sit back and I try to think of a time that he had anything other than alcohol, and I can't think of one. And so I remember in that little town, my grandmother owned a bar, which you know is an alcoholic's dream, right? Bar in the family. And I
Mhm.
remember I would go in there and my grandmother would play jazz on the piano and my dad would play bass and I would sit at the end of the bar and um, I remember thinking as I was a kid, you know, I used to get served Roy Rogers or Shirley Temples and you know when I was with the adults. And I remember thinking I can't wait till I can drink adult drinks. You know, I didn't even know what they tasted like for the most part at then, but I remember thinking that. And then around 10 years old, I was able to start tasting stuff and making screwdrivers for, you know, my dad and my mom and stuff. And that it just kind of took off like that, you know, and man, it went quick. It really did. You know, I want to say by, gosh, I don't even know how old I was, but by fifth grade, I was drinking on a regular basis. I was every weekend, I was drinking, doing parties, stuff like that. Just, you know, stuff that you do. You know, there's nothing to do out in a little town like that I grew up in. And what you did was you drank and and whatnot, and that's what we did. And um, I never thought of it as a problem, not at all. And I took that into my 20s, and I'd gotten this really good career. Um, Started with UPS, probably when I was right around 24 years old, and and I just kept doing the stuff that we do as alcoholics. I kept drinking. I drank with impunity, man. I was one of those people that drank whenever I wanted to, with whoever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to, and there was really no stopping me. That's just It's just what it was, and I sought out the people that did that as well. And it was like what we hear. It was all fun and games, right? And then it started rolling over, and I started having a few consequences, and I started getting into some other situations and stuff that I would have not normally been in. And you know, I lost that career at UPS. I remember I had so many no call no shows. That's a union job. And I remember people going, "Man, you can't get fired from a union job." And I was the guy that said, "Here, hold my beer," and and I did, and I remember sitting in front of this panel with the union and the higher ups from UPS going, we're gonna have to let you go. Is there anything that you want to tell us? And I was like, "No, I'm good." And they're like, because we could help you. If you need help, we can help you. And and now that I sit back on it, they knew what my problem was. They knew I was an alcoholic, and I didn't know I was an alcoholic. And so I just couldn't bring myself to say, "Yeah, I have a problem with alcoholism." And had I done that, they would have sent me to rehab. I might have gotten it. I might still have that career today. But when they asked me 3 times and I was like, "No, I'm good," they were like, All right, man, I guess we can't help you." And they let me go. And so here I was at 34 years old, and just gotten done with the job that I'd been at for 10 years and didn't know what I was going to do. And so I did what any good alcoholic um, young kid would do. And as I went to my parents, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And my dad pushed me in towards he wanted me to go to electronics school, so I went and did that. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do. It's just something that I did. And you know, in the middle of that schooling, my father passed away, and I remember uh, after getting fired from UPS, I went down a bad rabbit hole, man. My drinking really took off, and I started hanging out with some unsavory people, doing some unsavory things. And man, it was when the darkness set in. It was when I was so lost that alcohol was there to take all that away, because that's what it did, man. Alcohol is good at making me forget all my problems, because as soon as I start drinking, my next thought is, where am I getting my next one? Where am I getting my next one? Where am I getting my next one? And so I didn't think about any other consequences for anything else, man. It took me to the depths of some hell. And I'll tell you what, I remember sitting I was in I was living with my parents at 34 years old, going to school. And I remember getting in a fight with my dad. And I remember him and my mom were getting ready to go out on a they were going to go to a cruise to Alaska. And I remember me and him got in a fight. I remember him standing in my doorway yelling at me, cussing at me. And so they went on this cruise for a week. And I did what any good alcoholic did with no supervision, is I went to go tie one on for a good week. And I remember they got home, and I wasn't around. And about 12 o'clock at night, I was out doing alcoholic stuff, and I got this phone call from my mom going, "Hey, you need to come home. I think your dad just had a heart attack. He's not moving." And I had to go home. I ran home. Uh, it was like that Forrest Gump scene, I looked around a couple times and then I found the door and I just took off running out the door and everyone was like, "Hey, where'd you go?" And I was just running down the street, and they came and picked me up and gave me a ride home. And I found out that my dad passed. You know, alcohol took me to a place where I wasn't around for my dad. I wasn't around for my mom when my dad passed. And
Mm.
man, did that give me an excuse to get back in that bottle? You know, um, as soon as that funeral was over, I remember we were at my mom's house at the wake, and I remember I walked out of the house, didn't say anything to anybody, and I was gone for 3 months. Man,
Mm.
I
It's
alcohol
funny how
stopped working.
alcohol can. It's funny how alcohol can divert us, not only with your father, but also not being there for the other folks as well. It causes so many different things that divides us.
Oh man, it did. I abandoned my mom, and I can only imagine what she went through losing my dad, who she was married to for 40 years, and then losing me at the same time, right? So,
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, that took me down my path, and I got into some other bad stuff, and I'll tell you what, when I came back, I wasn't right in the head. Um, there was a lot of and it wasn't because I was pissed off at my dad because we gotten in a fight and he didn't hang out long enough to for us to resolve it. But in hindsight, me and my dad didn't get along. My dad wasn't proud of me. I can only remember maybe once him ever telling me that he loved me. So it wasn't like that close relationship. It was that I got something to hold on to that I could use as an excuse to drink, and nobody can say anything to me about it because I just lost my dad. And so
yeah.
I rode that horse until it died, man. I rode that horse until it died, and it was a downward spiral from there. I got into some other substances that really took me to some depths, man. It really took me some depths to where I ended up hanging out with some people, doing some things that I shouldn't have done, and and uh, and really, I ended up homeless. I remember finding out one time where I woke up and I was living in a park there in Reno, Nevada. I was living in this park.
Hang on, hang on. I got to give a shout out to Reno. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Our studio audience loves Reno, so not that
Reno,
that wasn't that wasn't about you living in a park. That was just because you
no,
mentioned Reno,
no,
Rich.
Reno. I'll tell you what, Reno is the best place for an alcoholic. You can get alcohol 24/7, 365. And then on the other side, there are so many meetings in of Alcoholics Anonymous and other meetings in the Reno area that you literally have no excuse to not get sober, man. I love
Mm.
Reno AA. Saved my life. Shoot. I'll tell you what, so I was homeless in this park and I was taking a shower with a garden hose that I stole out of somebody's yard in the middle of the night. And that's how I lived, and so I found myself awoken one night to a tap on the window, and it was Reno PD, and they ran my name, and uh, they said, well, there's a warrant for your arrest. And I says, no, sir, you must have me confused with somebody else. And they said, well, do you have a scar over here and this and that? And I says, yes, I do. And they says, nope, we got the right guy. And so I was put into this program. Um, I was put into this diversion program called drug court. And and I says, you know what? I can do this program. I can do this. And I found out really quick how much of an alcoholic and an addict I was. Um, because in fact I could not do that program. Um, I had so many dirty tests in that program. It got to the point to where they put an alcohol monitor on me. Uh, they put me in a halfway house. When I failed the halfway house, I checked myself into a rehab before the judge can get to me. I did all the tricks that a good alcoholic and addict would do to not have to pay consequences for what I had done on the outside. And that's where I got introduced to the program of AA. I got introduced to the program when I was in rehab. There was these guys that would come in and they would bring in these AA meetings, and I would listen to them. And there was this one guy. He would come in every Monday night, and he would talk. He would tell his story, and he would talk about how he grew up in East Oakland, and he grew up with a Harley, the Harley life, and the club, and all that stuff. And he was really soft spoken. He had about 25 years sobriety, 25 years sobriety at the time. And he was really peaceful, and he was kind and patient and loving. And I was like, man, who are you? How do you go from that kind of lifestyle to where you're at? And he said, the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was like, nah, man, you're full of crap, man. That doesn't happen. Like, you haven't been sober for 25 years. Nobody can do that. And why would anybody want to do that? And this was a 28-day program that I was in there. And I remember I got in there, and it was probably around the second week of April. And I graduated that program, I like to say, with honors in September. So you math people can do the math out there. That's a little bit longer. In 28 days, I'm a quick study.
That's, yeah.
That's 5 months.
Yeah. 5 months, and what it was this guy, when he would come in every week, and he would, we got to talking, and he would visit with us, and he would visit with me. And I remember one time he sat me down, he said, what the hell's wrong with you? I go, what you mean? He goes, you got in here when? I says, well, I got in here in April. And he goes, okay. And here we are at the end of August, and you're still in here, and this is a 28-day program. I go, yeah, but I'm killing it, man. I'm like, you know, like, I'm the guy's guy in here. You need something, you come to me. You want to know how it works, you come to me. I worked myself all the way up. I scrubbed the grill in the kitchen, and you want this and that. I can get you all this stuff. And he goes, dude, that's not anything to be proud of, you know? And I said, you're right. He goes, there's guys that come into this program, they've gone through, they've graduated, they've gone out messed up, and they come back. And he goes, you haven't even left once. He goes, what are you waiting for? And I was like, I don't know, man. He goes, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, maybe I'll try this sober thing. And he said, well, he goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, you give me an honest year of this program. He goes, an honest year. He goes, and we're not going to ask you to do any crazy stuff. You're not going to have to run down the middle of the street naked or anything like that. He goes, this is a program of suggestions, and try some stuff out. He goes, apparently your way's not working out. You're in a 28-day, 5-month rehab. And he said, let's try it out. And I says, I would like to try that, but I'm looking at these steps on the wall and these traditions on the wall. And, I grew up in Catholicism, and, I never believed it. Uh, I go, I says, I used to think I had a God, and it was a God that was given to me by my parents through Catholicism, right? And so I had this view of a vengeful, hateful God, and and my relationship with what that was like, I hated him, he hated me, and so there was a point in my life where I thought I was invincible because there was no way he was going to let me die because he wanted to drag me through this miserable life. So I was like, how's his program supposed to work? Like, I don't believe in a God. So how are we going to do this? And he goes, well, the cool thing is we don't have to figure it out right now. I go, we don't? He goes, no, man. He goes, we'll come to that, but how about we just start with maybe trying to get you out of here and maybe you not drinking for one day. And I was like, all right, I can do that. And so I started working with that guy, and I'd like to say that I got it from that point on. That was in 2007. Um, I'll tell you what, I got out of that rehab, and I went to a couple meetings, and I thought I had it. And in in October, I found myself getting dragged out of a bar in Reno. It was actually in Sparks. I was getting dragged out of a bar because, uh, from what I was told, I didn't like the way somebody was looking at me, and I thought it would be good to choke them. And that's just not conducive behavior, right? That's not something that we do. It's something that I'm not comfortable with. And so I bounced in and out of the program. I went over to this place called the Triangle Club, and that one guy that would come in and talk, that's where he worked, and so that's where I go to meetings. And I remember I'd gone to a couple meetings there, and there was this 6:45 a.m. meeting there, and uh, the quickest I could get out of the halfway house, we couldn't leave until 8 a.m. unless we were going to a meeting, and then we could leave sooner. So I was like, all right, I'm going to a meeting. And I started going to that meeting for a little bit, and I met some people, and it was pretty cool, man. I don't know what it was, but I felt safe there. Nobody judged me there, and then I did what us alcoholics do. I thought I had it figured out, and I went and did some more stuff, and it was just one of those deals of just banging my head against the wall, and then I thought it would be a good idea that I wasn't going to go back to court and do my check-ins. And so then there was another warrant for my arrest, and I was on the run, and I thought I could beat it. I honestly thought I could beat it. And what happened was finally one day I finally got caught. I got caught, and one of the conditions when they put you in that program is if you don't complete the program, you got to do your sentence. And so that's what I was looking at. And I remember they transferred me out to this place, and I went to court, and I was out there. They dress you in the nice black and white stripes, and they chain you up and everything, and you go into court. And I was sitting down, and my mom and my brother and my sister in the courtroom, and I get in front of the judge, and the judge says, "Hey, Mr. Tillman, I haven't seen you in a while. What you been up to?" And with all the humility that I could muster, I looked at him, and I said, "Well, Judge, I had some shit to take care of." And he gave me that look, and that look I knew. And he kind of shook his head, and the look was the same look my dad used to give me. It was a look of disgust. It was a look of, I can't do anything for you. It was just one of those things that I was familiar with it, right? And he says, Mr. Tillman, he goes, I've given you every chance I can. He goes, um, in this program, you have more dirty tests than anybody there is. And he goes, I think it would just be best if you just come live with us here at the state of Nevada for a while. And I was looking at a 2 to 10 year sentence, and I was like, all right, I'm cool with that. And I was okay with it. And I got back to my cell later on, and I sat down and I thought, this was that moment of clarity that we talk about in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yep.
Uh, I thought, wait a minute, I'm a good kid. I grew up in this little farm town. I grew up in this little farm town. I was a class clown. Everybody liked me. Uh, and here I was on my way to prison to do 2 to 10 years, and I was okay with it. And I thought, when did that kind of thinking become okay? Like when was that all right for me to go to prison and be okay with it? When did where did it go? And I sit back and I look, and it's like a lot of us, you know, I don't make that hard right turn. You know what I mean? It's just those little millimeters at a time, where I just do this one little decision puts me here, and the next decision puts me here and here and here. And after a while, I look and I go, hey, where the hell's that road I was on? And that's
It's
where I
like an
was at.
erosion, you know.
Yeah, I was like, where's that road that I was on taking me to where I'm supposed to go? And I'm going where I'm not supposed to go. And so when I got back, I checked out 3 books. I checked out um, I checked out the big book. I checked out the 12 and 12, and I checked out this other little book called Living Sober. And the big book is what I read when I wanted to go to sleep because it was extremely boring. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it meant. I couldn't decipher it because at that point I wasn't very bright. Um, the 12 and 12 I could kind of get behind, but I was still struggling with that God thing. And so I relied on that living sober because that gave me some real practices to try when I was going to get out, and I'll tell you what, things started working in my life. I started doing meetings while I was in jail and whatnot, and then I remember, I guess it's people call them God shots. I don't know what they are. Maybe they're just weird things. I remember I was I was in jail for quite a while, and I remember talking to one of the deputies, and I said, "Hey, man, I thought I was supposed to go to prison. Like, what? Why am I still here?" And I was in this old little town that still used a skeleton key, for the jail. Yeah, I mean, just this little rickety town, and it was not easy time. It was some harder stuff. We were locked down all the time. I got shook down 3 times a day, sometimes 5, and I was like, I would like to talk to the judge, and I got an appointment with the judge, and I finally went back to court once, and the judge was like, I don't know what happened. I guess we just kind of forgot about you. And he says, but I'll tell you what, I'm gonna let you out. I'm not gonna send you to prison. He goes, the time you've done in jail would is twice what you would have done in prison time. He goes, because that jail's a lot harder than the prison you would have went to. He goes, so I'm gonna let you out, and then when you mess up, he goes, I'm gonna give you your whole 10 years. And he goes, and by looking at your record, because it's right here, and I look ugly on paper. And he says, when you mess up and when you do, he goes, I'll give you all that, and we'll go from there. And I said, okay. And so I had an exit date, and I had a little bit of willingness for the program. I had a little bit of willingness for sobriety, and so when I got out, my mom came and picked me up. I'm a mama's boy, and my mom come picks me up at 38 years old. I get picked up from jail by my mom, and as a good mom does, she says, "Where you want to go? I'll take you to get something to eat." And what came out of my mouth was, can you take me to a meeting?
Mm.
And she goes, what? I go, yeah, I want to go to a meeting because that's where that one guy was that would come in and talk to me. And I thought I'd go talk to him, right? And so, you know, that's what I did is I went to a meeting, and that's where my life changed, right? That moment of clarity, picking up those books, and then I dove into the program and I started working with this guy, and I was like, and then we got to that God thing, right? And I was like, oh man, how do we get through this? And he goes, well, you're a numbers guy, right? I go, yeah. And he goes, all right. He goes, when you try to get sober on your own, he goes, what happened? And I said, well, as we know, I failed miserably. He goes, okay. He goes, what about now? And this was probably I got about 6 months sober at this time when we finally tackled this, right? And so that's how long we let it slide till finally it was like, hey, all right, we need to start talking about this. We need to nail this down. So let's figure something out. So I got about 6 months under my belt, and he goes, all right, well, where are you at now? And I go, well, I got about 6 months. And he goes, okay. He goes, have you ever had 6 months before? I go, oh, no, I've never had 6 months before. And I had 5 months. I was in rehab. I had 5 months, but that was rehab that did that, right? I never had any kind of time like that out on the, out by myself. And he says, well, he goes, okay, well, what's changed? And I says, well, I said, I've been going to those A&A meetings. He goes, okay. And I go, well, me and you been hanging out, um, I started hanging out with, people in the group, and, I had a Harley and they had a Harley, and we would ride all over the place. And, I thought we were just hanging out doing stuff, but we were going to meetings out of town. We were eating dinner and we were fellowshipping. And I go, so we've been doing that. He goes, okay. And so you got 6 months and you've been going to meetings. We've been reading the book and you've been doing some fellowshipping. And I says, yeah. He goes, okay. He goes, so when you're by yourself, you know, you failed. And I says, yeah. And he goes, okay, but when you're with a bunch of other people doing all this other stuff, he goes, you found some success. And I says, yeah. He goes, so maybe two is greater than one? I go, well, yeah. He goes, well, there's your higher power, man. One alcoholic helping another alcoholic is greater. That's your higher power, man. And I go, I can use that? He goes, yeah. Use whatever the hell you want to use, man. He goes, you use whatever works for you. And so I said, all right. And so that's what I used, and I'll tell you what, I went through the steps of that, man, and I cleared up some stuff. But the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous has saved my butt. I don't know how many times. Um, you know, One of the things that the program has taught me was, um, it says, I come in and I would hear, you never have to be alone unless you choose to. And um, I now, I don't believe that anymore. See, I gave some of you guys my phone number. I let some of you guys know where I live. And so if I go off the reservation, I'm getting text messages, I'm getting phone calls, and if I'm not answering that stuff, you guys are knocking on my door because you guys are protecting me from me. I found a group of
Mm.
people. Um, I like to equate this with, remember when you were in kindergarten and you're out on the playground and you guys want to play tag? I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what race you are. I don't care if you're male or female. I don't care about any of that stuff, man. As long as you got good shoes that gonna give you traction for running, that's all I care about, right? And 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 if somebody fell down and skinned their knee or something, everybody stopped. You picked them up and you dusted them off, and you made sure they were okay. And That's what I found in Alcoholics Anonymous. I found playground people, man. Like, I haven't found anybody in the program that has wanted me to harm me, and I haven't found anybody that's wanted to harm me. You know, I've just found people that were like, man, I don't want to drink today. And I can go, yeah, I don't want to drink either. Hey, you want to go get something to eat? Okay. And then I don't have to be alone. Um, I found people that are, I have a sponsor that used to tell me first thought wrong, right? And he goes, with you, first thought wrong, second thought wrong. And then on third thought, we'll talk that over. He says, you have a good idea. You need to call me. He goes, if you have a great idea, you need to come see me. And I had a lot of great ideas, so I met with my sponsor a lot, you know, because I'm an alcoholic, right? I have thoughts of uh because I'm sober, um if I buy a bar, it's all profit. Like, I'm an idiot, I'm a moron. And so it's one of those deals where I'm a product of my environment, is what I found out through the steps. I found out that the company that I keep are the thoughts that I have. And if I'm around people that rob, rape, and pillage, I want to rob, rape, and pillage. But if I'm around people that are practicing patience, kindness, tolerance, love, then that's what I do. And I found all that in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I found a program that has worked for me. People are like, well, how did you get through the steps, not believing in a God, because I'm kind of somewhere in between an atheist and an agnostic. Um, if you've been around AA long, everybody kind of knows what the Joe and Charlie tapes are, right? And
Yeah.
they have a really good description of how it goes through there. They talk about the agnostic, where gnostic means knowing and ag means not knowing, and they think most people come into this not knowing. So most people are agnostic because whatever preconception you had of a higher power or a God, maybe you don't know about that anymore and you might need to find something else out, right? And I'm kind of in between that and atheist, to where, I don't believe in a deity, but I do believe in a higher power because I've seen it work, you know, like what I was talking about with the group. I can give an example of, I remember going through something where I was about a year sober. I had this all planned out, how I didn't like the way I was feeling and what I was going through and what I was dealing with, and I was gonna go fix myself with what I knew worked, which was alcohol. And I remember this one guy that I was riding bikes with said, "Hey man, why don't you come hang out with me tonight?" when we were leaving dinner. And I was like, "No, I got some stuff to do." And he goes, "No, man." He goes, I really need some help. I need you to come hang out with me, and I need you to come help me. And I was like, "All right." And I got over to his house and we hung out, and we didn't do shit. We just hung out. Saved my butt because I was going to go drink, right? And he saw it. I thought I was being sly and whatnot, but he saw it. But there he was, protecting me from me. You know, where did that come from? So, people are all, well, how do you get through it? And I've sat down and I've walked some people through how to get through the parts of, where it says God. Our program loves acronyms, right? Group of drunks. That's, a group is greater than one, so that's a higher power, so you can use that. Good orderly direction, stuff like that. And there's just a way through. So for the newcomers that struggle with the God aspect, don't, you know. I mean, when I came into the group, there was a guy that called his higher power Chuck. There's people, you know, you can use whatever you want. There's no boundaries. That's what the cool thing is about it. My higher powers are a mix of a bunch of people throughout all the rooms. I got people that I still talk to on a daily basis. You know, there's a group there in Reno that every morning I wake up to a text with three guys, and you guys can edit this part out because it's a bad word. So maybe I won't say the word, but it's morning efforts, right? And then we spell it with
Mhm.
PH. We spell it with a PH, but every morning when we wake up, that's what we do. Morning fuckers. That
Yeah.
and you can go through my phone, and that's every day. We've hit that every day for years now. I have people that when I lived in Lubbock, that I talk to on a daily basis in a group chat with them. I went up to, I'll tell this other story, but, I have groups all around the people. I'm constantly in contact with people throughout the whole day, every day, um, in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, to remind me that I'm an alcoholic and that I'm never alone, man, no matter where I go to. Look at this. This is, I don't even know how many this is going to get broadcasted to, but could you imagine, the first 100 people that started this? Like, those guys had to go through some stuff. They had to go, what, a whole week sometimes without a meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We have it good, right? We got these little computers in our pocket going, where's a meeting that I'm close to? Or where's a phone number? We have all these tools. Um, I just can't find a reason why I can't be sober today, because I have so many tools at my disposal because of the program, that this is just so awesome. You know, um, I'm sitting here with just a little bit over 16 years of sobriety. Um, I would say probably when I moved away from Reno in 2021, I believe it was. And I moved to this little small town in Texas, and I was having trouble getting plugged in. I wasn't getting, this is my alcoholic thinking. I wasn't getting plugged in, right? And I remember having this thought. Um, I said, I was like, man, these meetings, I just can't get connected with them. Something's not right. And I told my wife, I said, I got a little over 10 years sobriety. I think I'm good. Well, my wife's in the program too, and she gave me that, the hell you are, and I had to go to Iowa for 3 weeks. And so I went up to Iowa, and I was like, I'm gonna I'm gonna go check out a meeting here. And I went to this meeting and introduced myself as a visitor. And after the meeting, I had a couple of these guys come up going, "Hey, we're all gonna go eat. You want to go with us?" And for 3 weeks, these guys drug me around just like I was a newcomer. And by the time I came home, I thought to myself, you know what? I need the program. I need the fellowship. And if I'm not getting it, then I got to create it where I'm at. And so I picked this group, 6:30 in the morning. There was probably about 6 of us, and I just stuck with that group. And when I left a couple years ago, we had about 30 people every morning going to that group from 6
Wow.
to 30. And I talk with those guys every day too,
That the
and
Triangle Club?
the Triangle in Reno, yes. This other one that I built up in Lubbock, that I didn't build it up. I was
Oh,
just a
that
part.
was in Texas. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, that was in Texas, and that was the Southwest group. And I'll tell you what, both those places saved my butt. The one in the fellowship up in Iowa saved my butt. And I'll tell you what, every time I think I'm at my lowest, the program. Me and my wife got married, um, there in Reno, and we were regulars at the Triangle Club. We were members at the Triangle Club. Um, the lady that runs that place is one of my best friends, Patty. If you get a chance, go in there and tell her Rich Tillman sent you.
I will.
Um, yeah, do it. So we had this wedding out of 200 people, 150 or 200 people. I would say 90% were from AA. Like, it was the coolest thing. you know. So there's that aspect of it, just so many things where um, my parents passed away. My mom passed away last year. Uh, my father-in-law, which we were extremely close as a family, but the program was there, man. The program has never quit on me. You know, usually when something goes sideways, it's me quitting on the program. You know, it's kind of like the program or those when you go bowling. You got those little bumper rails so you don't throw gutter balls.
Mhm.
That's the program, right? The program
Matt is
keeps
very
me.
familiar with those.
Yeah, it keeps me in line, right? You go this way and somebody pushes you over, and it's this thing that me and my wife talk about a lot. We've taken it to a few places. You'll hear it there in Reno, you'll hear it in Lubbock, and it's um it's a herd of elephants. Do you guys know about elephants? A
Yeah, they
herd of
put the
elephants.
babies inside, right? Or the
Right. Well, not only the babies, sick elephants, right? Because if a sick elephant falls, it can't get back up. And so what the
mm,
other elephants do is they all get close to it and they butt right up next to it so it can't fall one way or the other. And it has to stand
huh.
up, you know? Um, and so that's what the fellowship is. It's a herd. And
Yeah.
when one of us is hurting, man, everybody just flocks right to it, right? Like ask for help in AA is like taking a drink of water from a fire hydrant. It's either all or nothing, man. Like it just comes at you full
Yeah.
force,
Yeah.
Yep.
and that's so cool, right? Like, you know, there's nothing that I've gone through in my life that somebody in the rooms of alcoholics hasn't gone through, and they've gone through it sober, and they're willing to share that with me for free. Like, how cool is that? Like, I love the program because, man, where else? Like, I think we were talking, a little bit before this. We were talking about if other societies can be like AA. You know, I just I don't want to drink today, and I want to be a better human. I'm sure there's a bunch of ways of people getting sober. I know people that have gotten sober through, you know, exercise. I know people that have gone through NA, AA, all the other AA programs, Celebrate Recovery, meditation, uh, Buddhism, all kinds of religions. Um, and I think they can all work. But all I know is this is what worked for me, and this is where I flock to. I love the program. I'm a better person. I'm a better. I remember I was sitting in a meeting, and I remember somebody said that this was a lifelong commitment, and I was not a very commitment kind of guy, if you know what I mean. I was real
Yeah. Oh
flighty,
yeah.
and I heard that, and I remember I ran out the room, and my sponsor, and I got a hold of him, and I was like, "You son of a bitch, you tricked me," you know, and and he goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "This is a lifelong commitment," and he goes, "Where'd you hear that?" I go, "Somebody just said it in a meeting." He goes, "No, man." He goes, "We're just sober for today. We'll figure out tomorrow when we get to it." And I go, "We can do that?" He goes, "Yeah, man. Just break it down to whatever size you can deal with." And I was like, "Man, this is an easy program if I don't get my fingers in it and make it hard, you know?" And
Yep.
it's man, it's allowed me to expand my, he taught me how to be open. I was claiming that I'm between an atheist and an agnostic now. I can't tell you that I'm going to be that in 10 years because he taught me to be open. I just know that I'm that for today, and this is what works today. And it's worked for 16 years for me right now, and one thing that I've learned, if it's not broke, don't go try to fix it. And so
Yep.
unless I'm having issues, I'm not going to try to fix it. But if I do have issues, I know where to go, man. I have, I
Yeah.
have, I don't even know. I don't even know what our count is up to AA members worldwide, but I can go anywhere and figure out something because you guys have gone through it, and I'm pretty sure you guys aren't going to charge me on trying to be a better person, man. And I love that. I totally love that. There was another thing that I wanted to touch on. You know, I'm very open about my belief system now. I never used to be. I think I was about 8 years sober, and I remember uh, a fellowship from Chico asked me to be a speaker at a camp out, and I remember it was at this. It was. The irony is funny because the camp out was up in California, and it was at this. It was at Lake Almanor, and it was at a. I'm trying to think of the camp out's name. It was something like God's Gift Campground or something like that. And I remember I turned to my wife and I said, you know, I'm supposed to be this Saturday night speaker, and you know, I'm speaking at this place called God's Gift, and I'm an atheist. I'm like, what kind of joke we got going on here, right? And she says, well, you know, she works in the treatment facilities. She's, you know, a drug and alcohol therapist there in Reno, and so she's like, well, you know, she goes, one thing that I always hear from all my clients is that they struggle with the God aspect. She goes, why don't you try talking about how you got through the program with your belief
Mm.
system, you know? And that's been 8 years now. And man, I'm glad I did it because I've had a lot of people come up to go, you know what? I've been struggling with it. Thanks for helping out. Or I have people, you know, the funny thing is I haven't sponsored anybody that hasn't been a Christian. I think I have one guy that's an agnostic, but all my other sponsees have been Christians, you know, because I'm not pushing my beliefs upon you. That's, you know, my job is just to help you find your own path. You find your own higher power, you find your own path, and I'm just happy to walk hand in hand with you, you know. Um,
Yep.
and I think that's what one of the biggest things that the programs taught me was my path is my path. There's many paths to getting where we need to get to. Um, you can make it hard, you can make it easy. Um, but one of the things is I will walk it with you if you need someone. So
Man, what a great story.
thank you.
Yeah, that's some good stuff there, Rich.
I
Mike,
don't know
did
I
you
about
had
that.
catch who
questions I was
taught?
going to ask, and you answered each one somewhere
Yeah.
in your story.
You
That
can
is,
tell I've talked a few times.
yeah,
Hey, it was great. Great.
Yeah.
Hey, he got sober at 38. Did you catch that, Mike? Me and Mike also were both 38.
I was
Oh,
38 too.
nice.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
Yeah,
all 38. So,
Yeah. Took me a little while
and
to grow up.
I did almost 4 months at a 30-day rehab. So I'm with you on that deal. So you're not alone there.
You
I'm
know
a
if
the
you
slow
added
irony.
learner.
all mine together, it was a pretty good
Mike said it
stint.
was pretty much the 80s, you know?
Right. Well, you know
Almost two.
the irony with the rehab that I went to, and I didn't put this in my story, but when I was a little kid, I was an altar boy, and I went to this monastery for training, and then when I was 38, I went to a rehab that that's what the monastery was. It stopped at me in a monastery, and it turned into a rehab.
Became a rehab.
Hmm.
So it was like full circle, right? I started out there as a kid, and then I came back around when I started my new life, and there I was, you know, starting out.
It's,
That's amazing.
man, yeah, that's amazing. And thank you for coming on and telling this. And I just, I really feel like it's going to hit home with a lot of our people. And I feel like it's going to get out there and we're going to hear a lot of good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll edit it and then probably release it on Sunday, Rich, if you want to, Matt. And by the way, if you know anybody here in Reno that that you can give them my number if they want to text, call, if they need somebody to
Oh,
talk
dude,
to, or
I have a bunch of people.
I know you do. I figured you
Yeah.
did. I have actually. So the meeting I went to, I've been a couple times down in Carson. Go all the way to Carson. It just right off the highway. And then I drove by. I was in a hotel on that side over by the Triangle Club. I drove by there a couple. That place is busy in the morning. It is busy in the morning.
Yes, it is. But it's got a 6:45 meeting. It has an 8:15 meeting. It has a 10 o'clock, a 12 o'clock, a 2 o'clock, a 3:30, a 5, and it's got other meeting rooms upstairs. I used to be a board member there. I was on the board. It's a
Well,
Yeah.
private club, so it's AA only. But if you go in there, go to the counter. There's a little guy named Mikey behind there, or Tammy, or you can ask for a lady named Patty. Tell her Rich Tillman sent you, and they'll set you up. But yeah, I got a bunch of people in Reno. I got a huge fellowship that would really be interested in it. My wife's up there right now.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she works for the Empowerment Center up there.
Okay.
And so she goes every 3 months. She goes up there, and she's I think at 12 years now. So she has a really good story as well. Maybe I'll get her on.
Well, see
yeah,
if
we
she wants
love
to do
that.
it one day. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, she's got a really good story.
Well, Rich, thank you for coming on, man, and taking the
You
time to do this. And everybody that comes on here is pretty awesome, man. Nobody gets paid for this, and we all have the same heart for it. I mean, we just want to help the next guy or lady,
yeah,
and it's pretty awesome, man. People take
yeah.
time out of their day, and it doesn't go unnoticed. We very much appreciate it.
Oh, you know what? I love doing it, man. This is one of my bright spots is giving back to this program that gave me a life, man. Uh, I don't know. It's weird. I love helping people now.
And now you
That's
got
not
our
that's
buddy
not been.
Lisa, our buddy Lisa down there with you now. You're gonna have to add a couple of meetings to y'all's group just for Lisa because she's a
Yeah.
handful, you know. So
Yes,
my
yes,
buddy,
I do know that. I do know that.
All right.
thank you, Rich, for taking the
Rich,
time, man. We really appreciate it.
We appreciate you. We're going to
I
close this
appreciate you
thing
guys.
out, but we do thank you. And that's going to be it, Matt. No announcements, no mailbag, no nothing. So maybe next time. But anyway, from Bossier City, Louisiana, Tyler, Texas, and now Reno, Nevada, we have been the Grouch and the Brainstorm.